their competing authors to them had taken and purposely put their books into a category called genetic engineering. And I thought, why would they do this? Well, guess what? They purposely put their books in a different but sort of similar kind of category that was relatable, and they're just dominating in it. So they're always like number 1, number 2, or number 3 in that category because there's really not a lot of stuff going on in the genetic engineering category.
Mm-hmm. But what's the advantage of being number 1 or number 2 in a subfield is that going to increase sales?
Well, it can, because you're out, look, people don't scroll past the first page, right? I mean, they do, but they don't, right? So like the last report I saw was something like 85% of people won't go past the first, scroll, right? This is just a general consensus. Think about how you browse the internet. If you do a Google search or if you do an Amazon search or whatever, most of the time you don't go past the first page, right? You just kind of look. So being up, not only you can say that you're, a number 1 bestseller if you're selling really well in a category, but it also just helps you maintain that level in there and get found more. Remember, you got to get inside the head of how people browse, right? They're on their phones. They're like, oh, I'd really like to find I really love science fiction, so I'm just going to go to Amazon and type in science fiction. And then the books come up and they're like, oh, great. Here's some books. And they look, well, here's the top 50. And they're thinking, then they go, oh, the cover looks right. Oh, look, this one has 3,000 reviews and this one has 2 reviews. Right. And that gets me to my next point is reviews, right? It's such a big social proof part of having a successful book. I always tell this story about social proof is the best way to describe it is this. If you're in a strange city and you're walking down the road, you wanted to get dinner and you walk up to this restaurant and it smells great, looks great, but there's no line to get in. And they say, we can seat you right now. But right before you walk into the restaurant, you glance across the street and it's another Italian restaurant. And there's a line of 30 to 40 people deep to get in. And what happens in your brain is your brain says, why is this one nobody wants to get in and there's 40 people waiting to get into that one? And your brain makes a reaction and says there's got to be something better about that. And that's the best way to describe social proof. The same thing happens on Amazon when somebody comes, and if you have a book that's got 3,000 reviews versus one that's got 2, you're going to say, wow, 3,000 other people said this book's reviewed it and like it, but this one's only got 2. You know what? The safer bet's to go with this one. That's why reviews are so important. So you've got reviews, cover, description, categories, keywords that you put in when you upload your book. People mess that up all the time because they put in keywords that they aren't sure if they're even being searched. I use a tool with my SmarterAuthors clients called KDP Rocket. And basically, I can go in and actually see what people are searching for, right? I can go in and type in romantic comedy, and I can see that 60,885 times a month, people on Amazon searched for romantic comedy. Think about that. 60,000 times a month. But then I can go in and see that romantic comedy mysteries get searched for less than 100 times a month. Romantic comedy, free romantic comedy, less than 100 times a month. So getting the data, becoming smarter about what you're doing, what keywords you're putting in, what categories you're going to, is really a big factor in determining how successful your book is going to be or not.
Some of what you described, though, seems like the more generic or, big, sweep, large, high concept, broad the keyword is. Of course, that's going to be searched for more often. But at some point, don't you need to tailor things more specifically to your book?
Yeah, of course. But, I've come across authors who won't even put that keyword into their KD because they just didn't know any better. Look, nobody's at fault here. Authors are authors. You're really good at writing romance books, or you're really good at writing nonfiction books. You're not a marketer, right? It's the whole reason my author marketing club program was created. And the whole reason Smarter Authors exists is teaching people the things they don't know. I've been doing this a long time. I've got 10 books. I wrote a book for Wiley and Sons called Attention about 9 years ago. It was my only and my first traditionally published book. And the experience I had with traditional publishers led me to create Author Marketing Club to help other authors figure out how to market their books, because that's really the hardest part. Once you get the book out, you have to do your own marketing.
Right. And I know Author Marketing Club has its own webpage. If people are interested in the Smarter Authors program, where would they go?
That's just SmarterAuthors.com. You can get a free consult with me, a 15-minute. Just go to the website, click on the button, you get on my calendar, and I'll pull up your book, and we'll talk about the things that you're doing right and doing wrong. Maybe you get some good insight.
Holy smokes, that sounds fabulous. When you were listing the things that you focus on, the list was like title, cover, description. I was intrigued by title being what you mentioned first. So often today, it seems like titles are kind of generic, at least maybe in my thriller field. It seems like, spooky adjective from column A and spooky noun from column B, and then smush them together, whether they mean anything or not. What kind of advice do you give people for regarding titles?
Well, all too often, people get a little too I don't want to say it negatively. They just don't know how to write the titles the right way. For example, if I read a book called The Wave, what would you say the book's about?
I've got no clue.
Right. It could be about a tidal wave. It could be about anything, right? It could be about a wave of, whatever, a metaphor for wave. But if I wrote The Wave and then I put in a subtitle like a romantic comedy thriller or a post-apocalyptic, whatever. Here's an example. I have an author that I'm working with right now who wrote a book called Ruby Slips and Poker Chips. And then the subtitle was I think it was like the true story of Dorothy Gale. And it was a big play on, Wizard of Oz. So she's got 48 reviews. I said, let's go look at the reviews. This is a great tip for anybody who has questions about their title or what genre their book is go look at your reviews. Even if you only have 5, because the reviews don't lie. And we went through the reviews, and like 90% of the reviews were like, wow, this is a modern day Wizard of Oz romantic comedy. Boy, this was great. And within 2 minutes, I was like, your subtitle is a modern day Wizard of Oz romantic comedy. So now we have validation from people who have read the book that that's what they thought the book was. Now we can put that into the subtitle. So now people automatically know what the book is and what it's about when they're browsing. So now somebody can go to the Amazon and search, and they're like, oh, modern day Wizard of Oz romantic. I love Wizard of Oz. I love romantic comedies. Now you match that up with the cover that mimics the title, right? So that people tie them together mentally, and boom, now you've got a winner. And with a powerful book description, now you have the winning formula for a higher conversion of a page. Because you wonder how many people are just skimming past your book every single day, right? They may find it, but the cover, the title, the description are just not getting them to click. So title's a big part of that.
Sounds to me like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if people are interested in taking advantage of your Smarter Authors program and doing all this stuff you've been talking about, they should come to you before the book is released?
Well, I do have people who do that, and I work with a lot of people who ghostwrite, and I help their clients, and we come up with titles and covers before they release the book. But most of my clients are people who already have a book out who just can't figure out what they don't know, right? So they need the book description, they need a better cover, they maybe did the cover themselves or hired themselves. We'll actually redo the cover for you as part of the program. You get a professional book description in it. There's all kinds of things. If people, if you're struggling with your book and you just can't seem to get past those things that we talked about, just schedule a free 15-minute call with me and we'll talk about it.
So it's never too late is what I'm hearing, but it might be smart to get there before you've launched with a bad title and a bad cover and so forth.
Well, the beautiful thing about self-publishing is you can always change things. You know, one of the hardest parts I deal with is people who sign up with a publisher and then they're like, well, I'm like, look, you need to change your cover and change your title. And they're like, well, I'm signed on with this publisher and they're not going to allow me to do that. That's a problem. We're living in a world here where things change really quickly, right? And being stuck in a price or a title or a cover can be the death of a book. So if you're one of those people, try to get out of your contract. But definitely, if you're writing your next book, you're not going to want to be encumbered by a publisher who's not going to allow you to make the changes you need to make.
Okay, one last question before I let you go, because I'm intrigued by this. You've got a book out there called Selling Your First 100 Copies, right? Mm-hmm. And I know particularly, I think maybe for novelists, that's a big stepping stone. They write something, they think it's wonderful, their friends buy it, and then they've got 95 more books to go before they hit and they just don't know how to get the snowball rolling. What kind of tips would you offer people for selling that first 100 copies?
Well, I always tell people, I always tell authors is once you fix the foundation, right? You fix the description, the title, the cover, the keywords, the categories, then you can start working on the marketing, right? The reviews is also a big part of that. At least I tell people don't spend a dime on any marketing or anything until you have at least a base of 10 to 15 reviews at the minimum, because people just aren't going to buy your book unless they see that. They're just not. And the review option today is so difficult because, you know, you can ask friends and family to do it, but then Amazon sniffs that out and then they delete the reviews, right? So Amazon's making it more and more difficult to get reviews. So once you have all of those things in place, then you can start spending money on marketing, start some AMS ads, which is really important in today's world. That's really, really important.
That's Amazon marketing, right?
Yeah, Amazon ads. That's really, really important that you need to do. So there's all these things, right? So learning how to be a smarter author, learning all the things that you don't know, right? There's never any guarantee for book sales, right? Some of the best books in the world, you know, are going to just for some reason just aren't going to sell, right? No matter how much marketing you do. And people, you know, like, Jim, why do you say that? It's like, it's just true. You know, I have some books out there that just for some reason never took off. Even as many cover changes and book descriptions and titles changes as I made, they just didn't take off. And part of that is because maybe I didn't write it into the right genre. Maybe I didn't write it to the right market, whatever. But once you make the changes you need to make, you have a better chance.
That makes
the question.
Yeah, no, that's terrific advice. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
It's great to be here. I really love helping authors, and I'm very glad to see people have success with their books. So please go out there and write a great book and become a best-selling author. I'd love to hear about it.
Okay, thanks. I hope you got as much out of that interview as I did. I mean, I'm seriously thinking about dialing up SmarterAuthors.com with respect to my next novel, which, by the way, comes out this spring. Hey, if you're enjoying this podcast, would you do me a favor? Give us a good rating or post a review on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you're getting your podcasts. Follow me and the podcast on Spreaker or elsewhere. All of that helps increase our visibility and distribution. Just in the past few weeks, we were picked up by iHeartRadio, which is great, should make us much more available and visible. And I want to keep the momentum going. So if you can, help us out. I also wanted to mention that I've added 2 summer writing workshops, retreats, one in Eureka Springs, one in New Orleans for 2019. You can read all about it on my website. But if you think it would be beneficial to you to spend 5 intensive days focusing on your work in progress, making it as good as it can possibly be, you might give those a look. In addition, of course, to WriterCon this Labor Day weekend in Oklahoma City. If I can be of any help to you, you got anything you want to say to me or about the podcast or anything else, just email wb@williambernhardt.com. Until next time, keep writing
And remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit.